Into a live trade deadline edition of Locked On Cubs. Full transparency, I'm not really sure how this instant reaction is going to go. I expect a lot of people to join us and hang out, commiserate, show a lot of emotion. Certainly we'll be keeping tabs on the chat, but the Cubs pull off an absolute shocker today, not trading Willson Contreras or Ian Happ. They did trade both of their rental relievers, David Robertson to the Phillies, Mychal Givens to the Mets. But after a week plus of sending off Contreras and seeing as it was likely that they would trade Happ as well, both players stick around.
This is there's so much to unpack. The first thing that comes to mind that's just unarguable is this is just a bad look for the organization, because whatever Jed tries to sell you on, it was a foregone conclusion that those guys were going to be traded. There's a reason they had a send-off their last home game. Everybody knew that they were going to be traded. And for whatever reason, a deal couldn't get done. Now, we don't know what the offers were. Maybe Ian Happ's offers just isn't what Jed wanted, but to not trade Contreras. And the one thing I'm seeing a lot in my Twitter mentions, Matt, that I really think is important we explain to people are like, oh, well, now you just extend them. If they wanted to extend them, they would have done it before the deadline. They don't want these. Like, I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I'm just saying Jed Hoyer does not want Willson Contreras as his long-term catcher. Okay. That is a fact. Okay. Like if that was what he would have wanted, there would have been discussion. He wanted to trade Willson Contreras. That is what happened. And they didn't get it done. Ian Happ's a little bit more tricky because of that year of control. But even in Ian Happ's case now, if he has a great year next year and helps the Cubs win, he's going to max himself out. The Cubs have so many other needs. They're interested in Xander Bogaerts. They're interested in Brandon Nimmo. They're interested in adding big pitchers. They don't believe that using some of their resources to Willson Contreras makes sense. So to not trade them, somebody just put in, wow, it seems like Sam could never be happy. Well, I was expecting trades today. I wanted trades. If you watch the show regularly, I was on board with trading these guys. I wanted assets back in return, and I can't believe they didn't make them. We could dig into reasons.
Well, it would be an absolute shock if the Cubs re-signed Contreras, much less.
It would be to save face at this point. That's all.
You have the whole situation now with a potential qualifying offer,
which hurts him. By the way, that hurts Contreras.
Hurts him money wise for sure.
That hurts him financially. Limits where he could go. I'm really surprised at how this went down. I really thought this was going to be the last deadline that the Cubs could sell,
right.
And I thought they were going to really get some stuff back. We talked about a lot of things along the lines of packaging, Contreras, all the stuff that you talked about. I thought they were going to get back some significant amounts. And this deadline really turned out to be the Efros deal, which I think we admit that we kind of like. We don't know the Givens return yet. Chris Martin for McKinstry and
Robertson.
And Robertson. I mean, they just traded 4 relievers on a team that has a lot of pieces and that's going to finish, among the bottom 6 or 7 in the league. I'm very surprised. I mean, we'll hear what Jed has to say, but I'm somebody that has been very much a defender of Jed Hoyer. I have thought that he did an awesome job
last summer.
He did an awesome job last summer, and he paved the way. And I just can't imagine that he didn't, want to trade these guys. I think he really wanted to deal these guys.
Yeah. There was chatter last night about the Cubs and the Padres quite a bit. And there was even some chatter about the Cubs and Padres having potentially a structure of a deal in place, but that was all on contingent on Soto not going to the Padres.
Right.
And you could see today the Padres had a stranglehold on the market. I mean,
Right.
they're one of the best franchises in all of athletics, much less baseball. We could get into that on the regular show, but I think when the Padres option was no longer, the Cubs remained having a high price on both guys, and they ended up having too high of a price where maybe they did oversell it a little bit, or they did get out over their skis, because there's no reason for Contreras to stick around. Zero. You even hear some rumblings about the organization potentially not liking him as much as we realize as a baseball player, as
Right.
a 31-year-old baseball player. Do they want him to catch? Do they want him to be a part of the next great Cubs team?
They don't, and I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. That's the key. They like him as a hitter. They don't want him to be the catcher.
Right.
That's what it is.
Unfortunately, that was proven true to 29 other teams today.
Right.
Not only did other teams not want him to catch, his market as a hitter obviously plummeted, or the market changed to the extent where all these other teams got bats at a price that obviously they were willing to meet.
Right. And I think,
yeah.
They're going to probably just do the qualifying offer and get the comp pick for him, which they had rumors that they were going to do for Bryant last year, if you remember that, until that trade happened. I just don't see them extending him. I just think that is something that would have happened already if it was going to happen. The
Right.
reason, though, I just want to explain to our listeners, the reason why I'm upset right now is because this is unprofessional. This is a bad look. You have two guys get a send off from some of the greatest fans in the world. Every single John Heyman was just on MLB Network. Willson Contreras was rated as one of the top guys. Then Happ came in. It was a sure thing for days. For days, we've read reports, and to not make a trade, it's obvious. I don't want to, and I apologize if I'm coming off aggressive. It is obvious that there is something the Cubs did wrong here. This was not a situation of, we don't love the offer, so we're going to say. They wanted to trade him. Okay. And when I say him, I say Contreras, but really both. And something happened. I think I think it's the Padres. I think the Padres were the team that was gonna overpay for Happ and Contreras if they didn't get Soto. Right. So I fully agree with you on that. But it's somebody says here,
you had all day. You had all day to do another deal.
Bad look. They're big boys. It's not fly the dub. I'm not saying it's a bad look. Like I'm talking about Contreras' feelings. I'm talking about it's a bad look for the organization that they had a plan and did not execute it. That's what I mean by bad look. It was obvious that they wanted to trade him and they couldn't get it done. That's a bad look.
Although I will say, if you want to get into become a feeling show for 60 seconds here, it feels extremely odd as a fan, and especially like Ian Happ. How do we expect him to perform?
Yeah,
I mean, they're
professionals.
I get it. I get that, but okay. So now this winter, he in theory has 29 more suitors. Okay, that doesn't work. Then in the summer, it happens again.
Oh, you're talking about Happ.
Yeah, Happ. He just saw.
What? No, the Happ situation is so weird, Matt, because from a Cubs perspective, it's a lose-lose situation. Because let's say, unless of course they somehow win a division next year, which doesn't look likely, and if let's say Ian Happ next year goes 285, 25, and 100, he's priced himself out of the Cubs. The Cubs are not going to give him $25 million a year. He'll be a 28-year-old free agent that gets a ton of money. So, and then if he's not playing well, you find yourself in the same situation where you're, like you said, you're trading. It just doesn't make sense. I'm sure Happ's thrilled to be staying. I'm sure Contreras is thrilled. And, I like these guys personally. It's just when you're a bad team like the Cubs are, and you have two assets that just made the All-Star team, and you can't find a way to turn either of them into an asset, it's troubling to me. It's troubling to me. And I see Debbie here. I'm just looking at the top. I know you don't want to do comments right away, Matt, but I just think she captures this here. Are we rebuilding? What are we doing? What is the plan? I don't know now. Like, I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't think this is a move where the Cubs are like, hey, we decided to keep him. We like this team. That's not what happened here.
Yeah.
Okay. This was a situation of we overplayed our hand. We thought we had something with San Diego. We tried to use other team as leverages. The Mets went out and got rough and all this stuff, and they couldn't take care of it. But that is on Jed Hoyer. That is on the GM. You make that. I mean, and the thing is, Jed never once said, "Oh, we may not trade Willson Contreras." He never once said that. Every time he was asked on the radio, he goes, "I don't like to talk about that during the year." He couldn't have been more obvious and transparent that he wanted to trade Contreras, and then Happ came following along. So for them not to get it done speaks to me that they didn't get it done. And who knows, maybe Contreras and Happ weren't the assets that they thought. There's a lot that goes into it, but the bottom line is, the summary is, to me, and people will disagree, and everyone has the right. To me, this was a gigantic failure and a really bad look for the Cubs front office.
We're going to do a regular episode, actually, probably within the next hour or so, and join us for that on Wednesday in your audio feeds and also on YouTube. And please subscribe here on Locked On Cubs on YouTube, and we'll continue to reflect. I think and I'm playing a couple of comments there that we're not addressing, but I want them to get some play. Here's one from Chris that we will read. Plays right into what you're just saying, Sam. Optics. Yeah, it's bad optics. To have this whole runway to build and then the plane doesn't get off the runway. Very strange.
And I want to make this clear. I'm seeing a lot of like, oh, people are mad if they're traded and not traded. I have been very firm on my stance that I was pro these trades. I was unsure that they were going to trade Ian Happ, in that one episode we have, but I was very on board with trading these guys. I love Willson Contreras, the person. I love Willson Contreras, the person. I love Willson Contreras, the talent. I'm not a huge fan of Willson Contreras, the catcher or the clutch hitter. I was fine to move on from him. And then I thought if you could get something for Happ, I thought everything at the farm system level would be taken care of. I was on board. I wanted these trades to happen. I wanted to get some guys. I was hoping somebody, like you said, like the Padres would have overpaid for them. But to not trade him at all, it's very odd to me. And now it takes an offseason and really makes a lot of questions that we'll talk about. What do you do now with Happ? What do you do now with the Contreras? You're going to get a compensatory pick. You couldn't have done better than a compensatory pick for an all-star catcher. That's
correct.
Really surprising.
Well, I don't think the market was as good as they thought for both players, especially Contreras. I don't think he had that robust of a market to begin with. And then it played out the last couple of days just with other teams making deals where they saw fit. And just the Happ thing is completely puzzling. You had the Dodgers mentioned this morning, the Blue Jays, the Braves at one point, the Phillies, and all these teams got other bats, even close to down to the minute of the deadline, even making some surprising trades like the Jays getting Whit Merrifield from the Royals. So I understand having a high price. Jed Hoyer was in his right to do that, but I do think the Cubs took a little bit on the chin today with as high of a price as they had for both players.
And Matt, what's your reaction to what I'm getting a lot of on Twitter of, well, now they just have to extend them? You don't solve a problem with something you didn't want to do originally. Right? Like,
no,
if you didn't want to extend them before the season and you didn't want to extend them before the deadline, you don't just extend them because nobody else wants them. That's not how you do business.
I'm not convinced Happ would sign an extension with the Cubs.
Well, and I'm more talking Contreras than Happ.
Yeah. No, but I don't see why you would. If this is a so-called problem, do you cover it up with a signing? Multi-year signing?
Yeah, at that point you're just doing things for to save face, and that's not business. I have been defensive of Jed Hoyer since last year because I thought he crushed the deadline last year. This is really shocking.
It is. It's a shock.
Really shocking. The Efros deal was surprising. But I understood it and respected the return, and I thought it was going to lead to bigger and better things. I was kind of hoping to come out of here with one of the 5 best farm systems in baseball and then finish out this year and limp through the rest of this year and, then be ready to go next offseason. Now I don't know. And, I've never been a GM before, so I don't know how these negotiations work.
No, it's very befuddling. I feel very, very unsettled.
But I'll tell you this: there better be a transparent and direct explanation to the fans as to what happened. Because
Yeah,
let
I
me tell
put
you
up
this:
that comment about Hoyer taking questions.
if he hasn't spoken yet, right?
No, he will, I'm sure.
If Jed Hoyer comes out and speaks and says, yeah, we looked around and, we didn't find anything. We love Willie and we love Hap. That's, that's what.
That's
Okay.
troubling. That's
Yeah.
troubling. Yeah.
The Chicago Cubs fans are a lot of things. One thing they're not is stupid. Don't do that. Say something along the lines of, we had different values. We couldn't.
Right.
Just give us something so we understand what the issue was. Was it because the rest of the league didn't value them? Was Christian Vasquez, who actually plays a lot of catcher, that much of a better player than Contreras? Sure, okay, maybe that's true. Say something along those lines, because we deserve transparency. And a lot of what's troubled me about the off the field things with Tom Ricketts and the rest of the organization is the lack of transparency from the front office. And they were pretty transparent, in my opinion, that they wanted to deal these guys. I mean, listen to any interview. There's not one time where he didn't say, oh, we might not deal, we deserve transparency as a fan base, and we just aren't getting any. And to be in this obvious rebuild that we're in, and to completely have your two best guys, it's like,
no, it's a failure.
Yeah,
that's going to be the main thread on the regular episode. And Sam, what do you want to do about that? Do you want to stay on, or
we'll go 20 minutes? We'll go 20 minutes. We'll listen to what some people have to say, and then we'll do a live show after we Willson Contreras and Ian Happ take their swings against Adam Wainwright tonight.
So it is 5:33. First pitch is 6:45. I think Jed Hoyer might speak between now and first pitch. Otherwise, probably not till tomorrow afternoon when everybody gets to the ballpark. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll have that reaction in the regular show if he does talk.
Can I just make one comment on everyone's saying let's extend Willson Contreras?
Yeah, I'm seeing some of that recently. Yeah.
The Cubs have proven this year that they like when Yan Gomes catches more than Contreras for what it does to their pitching. The Cubs in the draft and in the trades have shown that they are really emphasizing run prevention and pitching. And what's a really important part of that is your catcher. Now, that may be a little bit that may be a little less important when robotic umps come into play, but that's still a couple of years.
I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, that's still a very big if. The Cubs obviously do not feel like Willson Contreras is the best case catcher for them going forward, and the guy they want behind the plate to develop what's going to be a boatload of young pitchers. So yeah. It's forget the fact it's obvious he's not a great clutch hitter, but he's still a very good offensive player. The problem is his defense, I think, is the big reason why most teams viewed him as a designated hitter. And that's why people say, why don't they just extend him now? That's the answer.
Of course. Yeah. A lot to unpack here.
Let's really quick talk about the deals they did make. That's a good question.
Yeah. This line right here. Yeah, we could do that briefly.
Okay.
There's a lot to work through with this line. I think that's going to be on Wednesday's show as well. Ben Brown is the pitcher they got for. Oh, the counts are flying high now. I'm trying to click on ones and they don't. I'm getting the wrong ones. There we go. Ben Brown I think he's going to slot in. I saw from Jim Callis of Baseball America, the number 11 spot in the Cubs system. That's a pretty good return for David Robertson, who was not even on anybody's radar prior to the season. After we get off the air, we'll see about the Givens return. The Brown return is really good. He's dominating in the minor leagues this year to some extent. He's pitching really well. So I know he projects maybe as a reliever at the big league level, but right now he's starting. And I think the Cubs have proven to do pretty well in the last year with pitchers. It's not good that they didn't develop a pitcher for dang near a decade, but you can clearly see that it's a priority now. And, I think the return for Robertson, very reasonable, if not more than that. So,
yeah, I think they did well with the Efros trade, fine with the Robertson trade, fine with the Martin trade. It's nothing that
oh, well, yeah.
it's nothing that changes the outlook of your system, though, which I thought this was going to be a deadline that took your system from very deep and very good to one of the very, very best in the league. And that obviously didn't happen because they held on to guys that, would have made that happen.
All right. This is your first time here. Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe to Locked On Cubs. We do a show Monday through Friday and occasionally pop in with some bonus shows. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Over 90 people, a lot of comments. And we'll be back with our regular scheduled programming as we push out an episode tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning. Thanks for being with us here on Locked On Cubs.